it's Azalee, and welcome back to the channel. On my first video, I talked about my story. And what I want to talk about today is my experience when I decided to leave my career, sell everything, and move abroad. I don't think I actually disclosed that in the first video, but that is in fact what I did. The result of my decision about what I wanted for my life ended up being something that looked quite different than what my actual life was at the time. And so, yeah, I ended up leaving my CFO job, which I do think I talked about in the first video, selling my house, selling almost everything I owned. But what I wanted to talk about today was that whole experience, because it was fascinating, really, mostly when I told other people what I was doing. The reactions that I got and the assumptions I think that people made about what I was doing. When I look back on it now, it's really funny, but at the time it was very, very stressful and a little bit upsetting, I guess you would say. And there were, I think, three distinct camps. One were the people that were really excited for me. And I think those are the people that knew me best, knew what I had been through, kind of knew what my values were, knew that I had been struggling, and I think saw my decision as a way to create a life that I really wanted and create a life that matched my values and would give me the kind of day-to-day life and existence that would be meaningful to me. And those were great, but they were by far the smallest percentage of reactions that I got. And I would say the next category were people who were somewhat skeptical, but weren't really going to say anything negative. It would be more like, oh, that's interesting. Or, oh, are you sure that that's what you want to do? I mean, what happens if it doesn't work out? Like, will you be able to get a job when you come back? There was a lot of perplexity, I suppose you would say, in those reactions. And they weren't, mean-spirited or anything, but you know as well as I do that when people question your decisions, there is a part of you, no matter how sure you are about what you want to do, that starts to wonder, am I being stupid? Am I crazy for walking away from this job? I think that was the biggest majority. People weren't negative, but they weren't overly positive either. They were just sort of perplexed. And then there were definitely the people who thought I was completely nuts. And those were mostly people who I knew professionally. And it's not because it was going to have any impact on them, honestly. It wasn't that. It was more, I think, that we were all on the same hamster wheel. We were all chasing the same thing, chasing the same level of success, whatever that means. And I think they just thought it was crazy to walk away from something I spent 40 years building. And maybe that was legit. I don't know. So it kind of ran the gamut, depending on who I was talking to. And, luckily, I was really sure about what I wanted to do. So what I really want to talk about today are the things that people really got wrong about my decision to leave. And I think the biggest thing for me that people got wrong was they thought I was being reckless, which is really funny because when you're in finance and accounting, you're sort of presumed not to be a reckless person. It just comes with the nature of the work. You're typically very stable, very conservative, which I think is why it shocked some people, to be honest. But I do think that the presumption, oftentimes when someone in your life decides to do something completely out of the norm for them and out of the norm in general, is you think you're crazy. That's so reckless. You're making a huge mistake. And I think there's a difference between doing something reckless and doing something crazy. Right? So it's not like I didn't think long and hard about this decision. It's not as if I didn't spend an enormous amount of time walking through all of my options, analyzing things to death, because that's what I do. What's the financial impact? What's the impact on my daughter? Where am I going to live? Where am I going to go? What am I going to do to make money? Because it's not like I was retirement age, and it's not like I had a ton of cash laying around. I definitely needed to work. So I spent a lot of time plotting and planning and talking to other people who had done this before me. Because no matter what it is you want to do, trust me, there's someone out there who's already done it. And 9 times out of 10, they're on YouTube, which is how I found my tribe and found the people who helped me see how I could live this life, how I could do what I wanted to do, which was at that time was to travel full time. So it wasn't reckless in the least. It was probably the most well thought out, well planned thing I'd ever done in my entire life. The other thing that I thought was really interesting was the number of times people would say how brave I was. And I didn't feel brave. I felt really scared. I never knew really how to interpret that. And when I look back on it, I think that it's often a word that people use when they don't have another word for what you're doing. It's like they don't want to say you're crazy or you're reckless. They go, oh, that's brave, right? And with exactly that intonation, right? Oh, that's brave. And I just remember thinking, I don't know what to say to that. It wasn't about being brave. Because honestly, for me, turning my back on corporate culture and upending this idea that materialism is a measure of success and choosing to create a life I truly wanted wasn't about courage. It was about survival, because at the end of the day, you are allowed to put yourself first. You are allowed to make yourself the priority. And that's not selfish. That's being present in your own life. It's about being truthful about what you truly want. And ultimately, it's about being free. And I look back at that time now and I realize that I had to do what I did because I couldn't continue in the life that I was leading before. Once you recognize your unhappiness, you can't ignore it. And it becomes this pulsing, neon, bright pink reminder that you're not living the life that you truly want. And you have to do something because you can't continue to live like that once you know that there's something else out there that's better. And the last thing that I want to share with you is the realization that staying in something that doesn't make you happy, continuing to live a life that isn't what you want, it has a cost. I know that really well. 8 years out now, I can look back and I recognize that the last probably 5 or 6 years of my career, I was incredibly unhappy. And that had a significant cost and missed opportunity. If I had made the decisions that I made 8 years ago, if I had made them 4 or 5 years earlier, there's no way to know what experiences I might have had. And that's the thing that I want to leave you with. I really want you to think about, what do you want? What is the life you truly want? Because if you're not happy, there is a way to create the life you want. And it's about choice. And it's about taking power of your own life. And you have that power. And I so encourage you to really start thinking about that. I hope you've enjoyed this chat as much as I have. I thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.